Hello everybody, today I'll be reading chapter 1 of The Boy in the Dress by David Walliams, illustrated by Kewan Blake. So I guess let's get started. The Boy in the Dress. Okay. The Boy in the Dress by David Walliams. For Eddie, what a joy you have given us all. Chapter 1. No hugging. Dennis was different. When he looked in the mirror, he saw an ordinary 12-year-old boy. But he felt different. His thoughts were full of color and poetry. Though his life could never be boring, the story I'm going to tell you begins here. In Dennis's ordinary house on an ordinary street in an ordinary town. His house was nearly exactly the same as all the others in the street. One house had a double glazing, another did not. One had a gravel drive, another had a crazy paving. One had a Vauxhall Calver in the drive, another had a Vauxhall Astra. Tiny differences that only really pointed out the sameness of everything. It was also ordinary. It was something extraordinary just had to happen. Dennis lived with his dad, who did have a name. But Dennis called him Dad, so I will too. His older brother John, who was 14. Dennis found it frustrating that his brother always got to be 2 years older than him and bigger and stronger. Dennis's mom had left home a couple of years ago. Before that, Dennis used to creep out of his room and sit at the top of the stairs and listen to his mom and dad chat at each other until one day the chatting stopped. She was gone. Dad banned John and Dennis from ever mentioning Mom again. And soon after she left, he went around the house and took down all the photographs of her and burnt them in a big bonfire. But Dennis managed to save one solitary photograph on the escaped the flames, dancing up into the air from the heat of the fire, before floating through the smoke and onto the hedge. Here's the picture of Dennis in the little burnt picture. As dusk fell, Dennis snuck out and retrieved the photo. It was charred, blackened around the edges. At first his heart sank, but when he turned it to the light, he saw that the image was bright and clear as ever. It showed a joyful scene, a younger John and Dennis with Mom at the beach. Mom was wearing a lovely yellow dress with flowers on it. Dennis loved that dress. It was full of color and life and soft to the touch. When Mom put it on, it meant summer had arrived. It had been warm outside after she had left, but it hadn't really been summer in their house again. In the picture, Dennis and his brother were swimming in trunks, holding vanilla ice cream cones. The ice cream smeared around their smiling mouths. Dennis kept the photo in his pocket and looked at it secretly every day. His mom looked so achingly beautiful in it, even though her smile was uncertain. Dennis stared at it for hours on end, trying to imagine what she had been thinking when it was taken. After Mom left, Dad didn't say much, but when he did, he would often shout. So Dennis ended up watching a lot of television, and especially his favorite show, Trisha. Dennis had seen a Trisha episode about people with depression and thought maybe his dad had that. Dennis loved Trisha. It was a daytime talk show where ordinary people were given the opportunity to talk about their problems or yell abuse at their relatives. And it was all presided over a kindly-looking but judgmental woman, conveniently called Trisha. For a while, Dennis thought life without his mom would be some kind of an adventure. He'd stay up late, eat takeaways, and watch rude comedy shows. However, as the days turned into weeks, and the weeks turned into months, and the months turned into years, he realized that wasn't an adventure at all. It was just sad. Dennis and John sort of loved each other in that way. They had to because they were brothers. But John tested his love quite often by doing things he thought were funny, like sitting on Dennis's face and farting. If farting had been an Olympic sport at the time of writing, which I am told it isn't, which I feel is a shame, he would have won a number of gold medals and probably received a knighthood from the Queen. Now, reader, you might be thinking that their mom had left the two brothers would be brought closer together. Sadly, it only drove them apart. Unlike Dennis, John was full of silent rage with his mom leaving and agreed with Dad that it was better to never mention her again. It was one of the rules of the house. No crying. No talking about Mom, and worst of all, no hugging. Dennis, on the other hand, was full of sadness. Sometimes he missed Mom so much that he cried in bed at night. He tried to cry as silently as possible because he and his brother shared a room. He didn't want John to hear, but one night, Dennis's sobs woke John up. Dennis, what are you crying for now?" demanded John from his bed. "I don't know, I guess I wish Mom were here and everything," came a reply from Dennis. "Well, don't cry. She's gone and she's not coming back. You know that." "She's never coming back, Dennis. Now stop crying. Only girls cry." But Dennis couldn't stop crying. The pain ebbed and flowed inside him like the sea, crushing down on him, almost drowning him in tears. He didn't want to upset his brother, though, so he cried as quietly as possibly he could. So here's a picture right here. John's right there, like, "What's up?" And then he's like, So why was Dennis so different, I hear you ask? After all, this boy lived in an ordinary house, in an ordinary street, in an ordinary town. Well, I'm not going to tell you why yet, but the clue might be in the title of this book, which was by David Williams, The Boy in the Dress. If you would like more chapters of this book, this was chapter 1. Please like and subscribe, and go check out other videos on my channel and on TV. Bye, guys. Like and subscribe. Bye.